In the recent history of South Africa, apartheid has a lot to do with the dysfunction of South African cities. I mean, they're fragmented and they basically just don't function well for poor people. I mean, it's as simple as that. So really a large part of the post-apartheid agenda from the early 1990s, even before the elections in '94, was to kind of look at integrating the city and planning for more integrated, inclusive cities. And it was quite a heroic moment for urban planning. You know, it was one of those moments, and you get those moments in planning history where this is the point at which planners can really kind of strut their stuff. Well, the normative vision was sort of ingrained in 1995 legislation, so there was a definite kind of normative starting point, if you like. But I think to a large extent, planners are feeling quite disillusioned about the lack of progress. Because our cities are subject to global forces, we've liberalizing our economy, or we have liberalized our economy, and the ANC's agenda is very much a neoliberal agenda. And this obviously has an impact on cities. It has an impact on where you make land available for development. It has an impact on the kind of the kind of spaces that are available to knit the city together, if that makes sense. So to a large extent, I think there is this sense of, well, we need to look at the city maybe differently. We need to look at the way that we kind of create more inclusive cities quite differently, and need to start kind of challenging perhaps more global agendas rather than just being kind of insular. What South African cities are experiencing are some of the pressures that are already felt in other African cities. Informality, perhaps not the extent of urbanization such as what you get in Lagos or Cairo, but certainly, informality being one, also issues around access to land, and a certain kind of understanding the limits to existing infrastructures, and understanding that new infrastructures are necessary. So certainly when I say beginning to feel those pressures, perhaps it's not that new. Maybe there's a recognition of these pressures that other African cities are experiencing. I think the one vital difference, though, is perhaps the institutions that are responsible for managing cities. I mean, I think South Africa's institutional structures are quite sophisticated. Not that other African institutional structures aren't, but I think there is a certain amount of decentralization. Really, it's about developing a perspective that starts drawing on the experiences of the South, and in this context, Southern Africa and Africa, and looks toward and kind of looks at these contexts and coming up with solutions or coming up with analyses that are more relevant to the global South, and perhaps may even make input into some of the issues experienced in the North. So it's really about I think it does represent a paradigm shift. I mean, I think as urban planners, we are trained in many parts of the world to look towards the kind of North for the kind of historical examples of problem solving in the urban domain. And what the ACC is trying to do is shift that through its own research and through its own agendas. I think it's audacious, and I'm delighted by it for that very reason. I think it's ambitious and bold, and I think that's something that I certainly, as a planner in the South African context, or the African context, that I feel I can learn from. Many South African planners are feeling slightly disillusioned with the post-apartheid project, or feeling a little bit kind of defeated. And I often think that, you know, we need to return to a kind of bold vision and just push things and be audacious. So engaging with this initiative is I find it's hugely energizing. And I think it's very brave, and I think it's very necessary.